You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. In this show, we go beyond the campfire stories to bring you firsthand encounters from people who say they've seen something impossible, from backwoods trails and remote mountain haulers to quiet farms and crowded highways. The stories come from everywhere, and each one leaves us with more questions than answers. These are the voices of the people who've lived it, so settle in, because today you'll hear another account that just might change the way you see the woods forever. So stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society, you've got the privilege of talking to Chet today. Chet is an individual from out there in Massachusetts who I reached out to in the YouTube comments on a recent Massachusetts episode, and I believe it was specifically episode 906, where we talked to a witness from Agawam about a white creature that she saw galloping on all fours across School Street in Agawam. And Chet, I believe, had left a very interesting comment. I reached out, and so we were thankfully connected. But welcome to the show, Chet. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be here and have a platform to speak about it.
Absolutely. I always like to mention that I did grow up in Western Massachusetts. It was up in Franklin County in Northfield. So if any listeners are listening to this and know about stuff around Northfield to do with Bigfoot, reach out to me, please. It's bigfootsociety@gmail.com. But down in your area, there's more and more stuff coming out recently on the show. Everywhere from Cobble Mountain. We talked to the Vogel brothers recently. And then we just mentioned this sighting in Agawam that was referred to. And I'm really interested to hear what you had experienced in this area as well, Chet. So I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to you. Feel free to take us through what you experienced that day, and then we will chat about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, listen to the one you had on a few weeks back about the woman in Agawam on School Street. This happened to me probably, I think it was 2010 or 11, and I believe hers was 2009. But it just made me want to talk about it. But I was driving from, she knows that area, and I'm sure you might know some of that area. Franklin County does have a lot of wooded areas around there too, by the way. I've been up there plenty of times. But yeah, I was driving home. I lived in Southwick at the time, and I was passing through Agawam, the Feeding Hills area. The people in the Agawam probably understand that. But I was on the highway. I was on 57, and probably like 5-6 car lengths ahead of me. There was no one in front of me but this one car, but there was about 5-6 cars ahead of me. And it was nighttime. I was driving with my friend, and like the highways, I think it was like a 3-lane highway at that point. No, it turns to a 2-lane on each side. It starts off as a 3, and about halfway down the highway, there's some wooded areas on both sides. And out of nowhere, seemingly, we're driving to Southwick area from like the Springfield area. Out of nowhere, like in front of us, we see on the median this giant creature. I don't know what it was. It didn't look like a bear. It didn't look like a moose. It was probably in between those sizes. It was bigger than the front of the car. So it pops out of the median, jumps and like runs across the highway. The car in front of us had to completely swerve out of the way. I'm talking like dramatically swerve, cut the wheel. They regained themselves, but they kept going and all that. And me and my friend were like in shock. This thing like galloped on, it seemed like on all fours. The back end was like higher than the front end. It was like a lot bigger than a bear. It was in between the size of a bear and a moose. And when it came out of nowhere, the car swerved around it, and it just galloped across the highway and flew into the woods next to us. And me and my friend were just in shock. I honestly wish I caught up to that car up there to maybe try to flag him down and ask him what it was. But yeah, that's pretty much the story. It's not a lot. But when I heard that woman's story, I was curious to see where it was. And she said School Street, which is near there. Obviously, it's the same. Agawam's a small town. But yeah, it made me think of that. And it wasn't like white, though. It was definitely a darker color. It seemed like a dark gray to me. The way it galloped across, the back end was like higher than the front end. And it had like a strange gait to it. Like it wasn't a bear. The thing was fast. It wasn't like lightning fast, like a lot of the stories I hear about people saying they gallop through here, there in the short amount of time. But it was fast. It definitely wasn't. I really don't even know what it was. I can't even explain it. It was the craziest thing I ever seen, and me and my friend were in shock about it. And I actually called him like last week to ask him if he remembered this, and he was like, "Oh yeah." He told me he thinks about it all the time. And I asked him like everything about what he saw, and it was everything I saw. So all of our details lined up, and so we both saw the thing, and I just no idea what it was. It was massive. It was massive, and it was just the way it galloped. Like, it was very strange, very strange. And it was gone in an instant once it crossed the highway. And the strange thing is, we didn't even see it come from the other side too. It just all of a sudden, and neither did the car in front of us. All of a sudden, it just popped out, and the car had to cut the wheel to go around it, and the thing just kept galloping across, and it was gone in the woods. And it's like a little small section of woods, but I know Robinson State Park is over there in Agawam, which is pretty big. And if you go further towards the Southwick area, you get to Granville. It's definitely some miles away, but you go from Agawam to Southwick to Granville, and it's all massive amounts of woods up there. But that's pretty much my story. It's nothing crazy. It's not a lot. It's not a big story, but it was definitely interesting, and it's never left my mind. I've been thinking about it all the time. And hearing her story from Agawam about the white albino, that was really, really interesting. Just made me want to talk about it.
Chet, that's some wild stuff, man. I would love to go over some things just to get a better viewpoint of where this happened in the Agawam area. Do you think it was it near Robinson where you were driving, or?
If you have, I don't know if you're on a laptop or anything, or if you could pull up a map real quick. If you Google, I guess you can just Google Agawam, Mass, and you can go over to the highway area. It's right on 50. Highway is 57. It's definitely north of it. It was definitely running in that direction. So it's Henry Bodertha Highway. Henry E. Bodertha Highway. Do you see that?
Let me take a look here.
Like, it's one of the main roads, or
yes.
So that is 57.
Yep.
That's the highway I was on. So if you look to the north of that, like northwest a little bit, you'll see like Robinson State Park.
Yes.
So that's where the park is. But so I was like literally like southeast of that, like slightly before the end of the highway. And it came across from the south and was going north up towards that way. I guess it's a little ways away. And you can see there's no wooded area. There's a little small wooded area actually right off the side of the highway. And that's like where we were. But look, if you could see it, that's a small area. Mm-hmm. If you got the terrain set on your map, you could see like the wooded area in the middle of that stretch of the highway.
Okay.
And that's where it was, like literally in between there. It came from the south part of the woods and went to the north. And it's just a small wooded area past that. I guess it's like between, you can see the Garden Street and the Mill Street exits.
Gotcha.
And you can travel, if you travel south from there, you can see there's woods. And there's like a line of woods, but whatever it was could have came through all that. But it was going north, and if you look north, it's all like neighborhoods. There's small sections of woods until you get to Robinson State Park, which is right there.
Yes, I am. Okay, I totally see it now. I'm on Onyx, and I'm able to see it a lot better than. Yeah, there's a lot of little kind of wooded areas on either side of the highway.
Right, yeah, so there. If you can see where the high school is, do you see the high school on your map? Agawam High School?
Yeah.
So south of that, like southwest of that a little bit, like where the highway is all surrounded by woods, that's where we were. So if you follow that south, you can see there's wooded areas where he could have came from, or he or she or whatever. And then if you go further north, which is the direction it was going, there are little patches until you get to State Park, and it was nighttime. But it's so weird. I don't know where he would have gone or come from. It's not like a crazy wooded area.
It really makes a lot of sense when you look at it with that particular view. It lines up with exactly the other stories that you hear from other major cities about, like the green belts or the sections of wood that Bigfoot or other animals could follow into a city, or in this case, trying to get to a larger area like Robinson State Park, where you have the Westfield River as well. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for walking me through that.
And if you look further north, like towards the state park, like pretty much the road that runs like west and to east or whatever, that's North Street, right where that woman said I think she said it was North Street, right?
Let me check on my.
Oh no, it was School Street. She said it was School Street. I'm sorry.
Yep. So School Street is over by the Connecticut River, across from Forest Park. What time of day was that sighting again?
It was about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. It was dark out. It was like summertime. Definitely remember that. Yeah, it was dark out, but we could see the thing. To me, my friend said he remembers it being black. I remember it being like a dark gray, like it was offset from the background of the dark out. It stood out. Not like a glow to it, but because of the color, like I could see like the whole everything. It was like the car was like 5, 6 like lengths of a car ahead of us. And that's how far away it was. And then the back end stood up like higher than the hood of the car. Like actually the whole thing did, but the back end was like definitely probably like a foot or two above the hood. And the front end of it was still above the hood too. You could see it just galloped across.
Okay, so you see it gallop across. Both parts, front and back, are above your hood. And what's the car that you're driving again?
I was driving a Mazda 3, like a little, I guess, like a sedan. And the car in front of me, I remember it because it was one of those Subaru wagons, like the Foresters.
Okay.
I just remember it. I remember it clear today because it's ingrained in my head. I remember the whole thing.
Let's see, 5 to 6 car lengths. That would probably be like 75, 90 feet, you think?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely, I would say, yeah, that's accurate.
Okay.
Definitely no more than 100 feet away.
So you're seeing the profile of it definitely as it's running across the road. How many seconds in all do you think what you saw took?
Maybe 4 or 5 seconds.
4 or 5 seconds.
Tops.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm just trying to map and think about it. Yeah, it had to be about that because if you can see, you see the overhead, there's like a median. There's obviously 2 parts of the highway. And it came from the median when we first seen it. Like I didn't even see it come from the left. And it was nighttime. There was no cars on that side. It's not a busy highway as it is, unless during work hours, but it's like a small stretch of highway that just connects you from Agawam to Springfield. So it's like there was no cars coming on the other way. So when it started in the median and there's a guardrail, I don't even remember seeing it jump the guardrail. I just remember seeing something out of just a split second, and then the car in front of us swerved. It swerved left towards the median around it because the thing was coming from the left to the right. So the car like swerved over, and like we seen the whole thing. It just didn't even stop really. It just kept galloping the way it did. So 4 or 5 seconds, because there's like a stretch of grass, probably like actually another about 100 feet, if that before the woods hits. So it cleared that in like 4 to 5 seconds from the median.
Yeah, that's really quick. In that time, were you able to notice anything? So like the hair of it, was it flowing as it was running across, or it seemed to be short enough that wasn't really flowing as it went?
Well, it like strangely seemed patchy. What I was thinking about it after, I started looking up bears with mange because it reminded me almost of something like an animal that would have mange where it's scraggly looking a little bit. But it definitely wasn't a bear with mange from all the pictures I seen. But it just seemed, it just seemed patchy. Like the thing itself wasn't scraggly, like the thing was big, but it like the fur on it or hair or whatever, like it was covered like most of the body, but it seemed like patchy in areas from what I can remember.
When you saw it go across in front of you, were you able to notice anything about the head part of it, the shape of it, or any details at all?
Not specifically, because it was too far away, and like by the time it was going across, it was already past us. We seen the side of it and the back end of it. I did see it seemed like it had like a round kind of head, like a typical like Bigfoot type thing you would think of, or like a gorilla type head. And that's why I know it wasn't a bear, though, because that's part of why I know it wasn't a bear. For one, the sheer size of it, but for two, I didn't see like a snout. We seen the side of it, and it looked like I didn't see a snout or anything like that. That's what confused me and my friend too, because we're like, is that a freaking bear? What's going on? And yeah, that confused us. So I know for sure it wasn't a bear, and it didn't have a huge snout or anything like that.
It's a great detail, Chet, to throw out there. So no snout, which would have been the dead giveaway that it's a bear. So Instead of that snout, then what are you seeing in that side view?
Just like, I guess the only thing I could think of is like if you picture the side of a gorilla's like head or like a monkey head or something like that, but proportionate to the size of the body, like.
It probably would have been hard to see because of the viewpoint you had in your car, but at any point, could you see down the lower part of whatever was running, like what would have been hands or that part of the body at all?
Unfortunately, no. I didn't get a good enough look at it to see that. It was too dark. It was like dark down, like towards the bottom. Fortunately, the car in front of us, the headlights hit it too, so that helped me see it, obviously. But when the headlights were on, it was obviously in front of the car. And so when it swerved around, we could still see it, and we were getting a little closer as it like shot off to the right. But no, I didn't really get to get a look at its feet, really, no.
Did it seem to have a tail or anything at all when you saw it go past?
No tail. We didn't see a tail. I didn't.
Gotcha. And just to check, so you mentioned that one of the things that made you think this is definitely not a bear, you were able to talk about that. Were there any other things that stick out in your mind that make you think, okay, this is definitely not a bear, what I just saw?
Well, definitely the size of it. Right now, where I live in the woods, like I see bear often. Like the house where I live in my house, it's surrounded by woods, and our driveway is like a long dirt road. There's a main road not a main road, but a side road. But so I've seen plenty of bear come through. I've obviously know what bear looked like. It was huge. That was the first thing when I knew it wasn't a bear. And then talking about it with my friend, we're like, dude, we didn't see a front snout. The whole thing. We were talking about it the whole way, and we talked about it for weeks after that, obviously. But no, the size of it, like the fact that it stood out, you could see the whole upper part of its body, like as it was bent down, you could see like the torso, whole section of it basically. And it was just stood up over the car as it was bent down on four legs or whatever. And it just did not look like a bear. From that alone, and then not having a snout, how fast it was going compared to a bear. Bears can run fast. I know that. And they can climb a tree real fast. But it was just way too big. And if I remember correctly, I believe a bear actually ran into the side of a car on that same highway like years back. You'd have to double check that. But if I remember correctly, when I first moved out here, I remember hearing about that. But that's not relevant here. But that alone, though, the size of it, I knew it wasn't a bear. Me and my friend were joking around calling it a chupacabra, just like jokingly. But obviously it wasn't that or anything. But yeah, just the sheer size of it alone, we're like, what is that? That is not a bear. I mean, it just galloped. The way it moved, like it just galloped, almost like a horse, I guess, but like with the back end a lot higher.
Wow.
The back end could have probably been about 5 feet, because if the front of a Subaru Forester was like, I don't know, maybe 3.5 feet. I don't know, the front end, 4 feet. But it definitely was about a foot or two above the front of the car, for sure.
If you can imagine what you saw run across the road, stop, and then stand up, how tall would you estimate that to be when it's standing up?
I'd have to say 8 feet, maybe. Maybe a little, probably closer to 9 feet. It was big. It was big. It definitely 8 to 9 feet, closer to the 9 feet. Because if the back end stood up a couple feet tops over the front of the car, the station wagon there, the Forester, yeah, I would have to say another 4 feet. It was big. It was long too. So it basically was as long as it, when it was on all fours, it was as long as wide as the car, like the side of it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Interesting. You said that there are parts of it, like it was covered in a patchy hair. Were you able to see any muscles at all as it ran or anything like that?
Not like any definition of muscles, but it was thick. It was definitely like a thick thing, like its arms and legs and all that, and its body was like really beefy. But I couldn't see any type of definition or anything like that, any muscle definition or anything.
After you had this sighting, Of course, you had someone else with you there in the car, which is awesome. Your friend who you mentioned.
Yeah.
Is this a story that you started to share around people that you knew, or is it something that you really haven't talked about a lot about?
I have a small circle as it is. I did tell my family. My family is like interested in this stuff too, and they believe in this stuff. Like my parents, and I have one brother. I did mention it to them, talked about it definitely with my friend all the time. I may have mentioned it to a couple other friends in passing and just talking about it, but nothing to this point or extent. But I just been watching more of this stuff and more of your shows and hearing people talk about it, and I feel like it's time I can talk about it. Not that I didn't feel I couldn't before, but I just hearing the woman from talk about the albino one like really made me like want to talk about it too, because it's close to home.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of people are starting to feel that. They hear from shows like this, and like it's, for some reason, it's okay to start sharing what they've experienced. It's helping other people in the same area. And so you mentioned that you listen to some shows, and after you had that sighting, how did that affect you after that? Some people will react in different ways in the days afterwards.
No, it just made me believe more, really. And I don't know if it was a Bigfoot, really. I don't know. But it made me just more believing. I did already. At that point, I wasn't into all the YouTube shows. There wasn't like it is now on the internet, obviously. But I was into like that stuff, like Bigfoot and stuff like that. But I didn't follow shows or anything like that. I've watched stuff here and there. But I never had anything happen to me or never had any experiences. But I'm not an avid, I like to go hiking and stuff, but I haven't gone to like deep mountains and slept overnight and stuff like that. But yeah.
Absolutely. And did you ever take any time in the years afterwards to look around the area or to see if you could find any other things that had happened, people having sightings or encounters in this area of Massachusetts?
I actually didn't. I don't know why now that I think about it, but I actually didn't know. I didn't like do any searches or anything really. I don't know. I really don't know why I didn't, but I didn't really think about that.
What was it like when you had seen that, probably the episode of this same show where another person had a sighting of something very similar but a different color? How did that affect you?
I was like actually excited when I was just scrolling my feed and I because I follow your show and I see it in the post on Agawam, and I was like, what? And then I closed my YouTube out. I was like, crap. And I had to research, and I was like, I finally found it again. I was like, oh yeah. And it just got me excited because I was like very extremely interested. And then she said the time frame, and I was like, that was a little bit before. But then I was like, what if that was the same thing, and it was the baby of it or something? But hearing more of her story, I don't guess it could have been, but it wasn't white, so that disappointed me. I was like, oh man, I was hoping there was more of a connection, but I still think there could be a connection. Who knows? But hearing her talk about it and mention that, it was really cool, and it got me like excited to want to tell my story too, and at least tell you guys what I seen.
Absolutely. Chet, I appreciate you spending some time this afternoon talking about what you experienced in Agawam, Massachusetts that day, what you saw across the road in front of you. Thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about that. I want to make sure that you were able to share everything that you would want to share today about your encounter.
Yeah, I believe I did. So I did want to mention, I don't know, I've heard a lot of Bigfoot stories where there'll be UFO connections and stuff like that.
Sure.
I don't know how much you've delved into or heard about. I'm sure you've heard things like that. I just thought that it was strange because when I moved out here, what was it, like 2001 or 2004. But anyway, when I moved out here, there was a show, I think it was called UFO Hunters on TV, and they actually had a segment about Southwick, Massachusetts, and how there was a UFO sighting. It was actually featured on the show. I found that to be really interesting because when I first moved out there, I'd never seen anything like that on a show that was like from where I am. So that was interesting. I don't know if there's any connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. or anything like that, but it was interesting to me. It has nothing to do with it. And if you cut this out, that's fine.
No, you're good. It's important, I think, to know that kind of stuff, because a lot of times if you dig deeper into the areas where there are sightings like this, you're going to find other stuff happening too. You're going to find either UFO stuff or strange lights in the woods, orbs. You might even find encounters with other cryptids like Dogman, all sorts of weird stuff. And that kind of is a whole thing in its own. It's like, why does the weird stuff happen in all of these areas? Has it always happened there? Is it happening now because some kind of, veil is thinning? There's so many hypotheses that one can do, but it is very interesting, I think, to look into other stuff that's happening in the areas where now we know there's 2 sightings of something weird, Bigfoot related, that crossed the road in front of 2 different people, and not 2 just years apart. So pretty interesting stuff. But yeah, Chet, keep us in the loop if you do experience things in the future, or if you do hear about other things happening in the same area. We'd love to hear about it. You're welcome to reach out, and we'd love to talk to you about that.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate the opportunity, man. And it's been great. And I love that you do this and give people this chance to talk about it and feel comfortable about it. And it's just a great community. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out today, Chet. Before we go, here's a voicemail update about another recent Massachusetts episode.
Yes, I just listened to the North Shore Bigfoot encounter in, I believe, Groveland, Georgetown area in the swamp area. I know exactly what the person's talking about. My encounter, I shouldn't say encounter, it's still unknown, but what happened was me and my wife were on a motorcycle. We kind of traveled a back road, and we had to see a man about a horse, and we drove up that road. It hadn't been blocked off yet with the fire road gate. Parking lot wasn't there yet. At the top of the hill, I turned the motorcycle around. She got off to do her thing. I got off to do mine. My hair in my neck stood up in the back of my neck, and I was totally freaked for 1 second. And about 20 feet away, my wife says, "Somebody's watching us." And I kept looking around. In our minds, we saw something. She has a description of what she saw. I have a description of what I saw. Only in my mind, it wasn't in reality. But we got on that motorcycle and scooted right out of there. They since have blocked off that road. They did put a parking lot in there. We've been back there. It's definitely an area where I would think that these types of humans would live. Thank you.
Before we wrap this episode, I want to say something directly to a very specific group of listeners. If you're in the military, any branch or forces, and if you've seen something that no one can explain, or if you're a national park ranger or forestry worker who's been told to stay quiet, or if you're a pilot who's seen something strange down on the ground, or if you're with the FBI, a federal agency, or working intelligence, and you stumbled upon something you're not allowed to talk about, and if you're a firefighter, paramedic, or search and rescue responder who's heard screams or found tracks that didn't make sense, if you're in the logging industry, on a remote oil field, or a trucker with government contracts, and you've had something happen that you've never told a soul, and if you're a biologist, a wildlife specialist, or a field researcher under contract who has found evidence you're not allowed to report, if you're a pastor, a missionary, or someone on a spiritual retreat, and you saw something that shook your faith, or if you work in the shadows, CIA, NSA, or anything with clearance, and you've seen what the public hasn't, then I want to talk to you. Even if it's anonymous, you can reach me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. The world needs to hear what you've been forced to carry alone, and you're not alone. You've got the story. We've got the mic. See you in the woods. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Every encounter we share reminds us that the world is bigger and stranger than we think, and that the truth is often hiding just beyond the tree line. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode, and share this with a friend who's into mysteries, monsters, or the unexplained. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, please follow the show there and leave us a 5-star positive review, because all of that helps more people discover the show. And remember, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot sighting, please, I'd love to hear from you. So email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com and let's start the conversation. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, check out our membership community over at www.bigfootsocietypodcast.com. And that's where you can hear tomorrow's episode today, early and ad-free, and members-only episodes every week. Also, it's a place to connect with other people that are into the Bigfoot subject as much as you are. Thanks again for following along with the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.